Today on the podcast, I've got a guest with me that I'm really excited to have here. Charlie Barlow is a PR and media exec for Supercars, and she's also the big screen presenter. Charlie, thank you so much for taking the time to come on today.
Scott, thank you for having me.
I was so stoked when a friend of mine actually connected us, and when you actually agreed to come on, I'm like, geez, I'm hitting the big time. I'm getting people from Supercars. You're the first person from that big series to come and talk to me, so I consider that a real breakthrough. So I've got to thank you for that. But Charlie, you have found yourself here at the working at the top echelons of Australian motorsport, and that's no small feat. And anybody that has worked their way in and around a racetrack would certainly understand that there's a journey there, and I'm assuming that there's perhaps a story to how you got yourself there.
Yes, there certainly is. I think there's always maybe two schools of thought, like, you either grew up in it and it was, in your family from day dot, or you're someone that maybe finds it a little bit later in life. And I'm certainly the latter. I was, come into it in a kind of probably a quite strange way. And also I wanted to finally pursue a dream of being a presenter, and thought that there wasn't a lot of women in motorsport, and needed a way, because I was already 30, of course, so over the hill, already needed a way to stand out pretty quickly. And being a blonde British and female certainly kind of worked in motorsport for me. It's not that I haven't worked hard, and it's not that I haven't got the skills. It's that I certainly stood out like a sore thumb, if you will, straight away. Quickly, I guess, to go back to the beginning. So I obviously grew up in England, in Essex. I'm a proud Essex girl.
In Essex? I was there just a couple of weeks ago. Would you believe it?
Yeah, good old Essex.
Bashing around Essex?
Very long time. Long time.
No.
Because I'm from Chelmsford.
I don't want to rush through this bit, and that's what you said. You want to quickly rush through this. So born there. So born in Essex. Your family still there? Are they still?
So mum, stepdad, and little brother, little sister are over here. So I was dragged over here kicking and screaming.
Oh, really?
At 18. Yeah, I wasn't happy about it.
Oh, no. When you turned 18?
6 months before I turned 18.
Oh, that's brutal. So, leaving all your friends at, that's a pivotal time for a teenager. Oh, no.
Yeah, which sort of also, but we'd visited before, obviously.
Yeah.
I think I was about 12 or 13. We did a big trip over here, and I knew it was coming for a few years. I tried to stay, but it would sort of break my mum's heart. So they made a deal with me that if I came and didn't like it after 6 months, I could go home. And long story, again, very long story, but I'll keep it to the key parts, because I tried to go to uni over here. I always wanted to be a journalist, and I tried to go to uni, and they took one look at my grades, which were straight A's. I was very proud of them. I worked hard for them. I'm a brown nose, and two, I like school. I'm academically driven. I like it. So I did really well, pushed myself really hard, and then got over here. They took one look at them and went, what on earth are these? We don't know what these are.
Oh, no.
You need to go and get them. Because I was 18,
Yeah.
I couldn't go in as a tour aide. I couldn't go in as an international because I lived here and I had a visa. It was all these things.
Yeah.
And they said, look, you need to go back to year 9 and start again.
What?
And I just went, absolutely not. For two reasons. One, no. Two, not a good idea, in my opinion, to put an 18-year-old girl in a room full of 15-year-old boys.
No.
Probably not the best,
No.
You're asking for trouble there. So, so I just went, what, my dad, my stepdad, he's been my dad for, I call him dad because he's been in my life since I was 5. And he said to me, you got 2 weeks to find a job. That's it. So I went and just got a job in hospitality and hoped for the best. And that dream was well and truly, to me, dead. So then 6 months later, my parents are true to their word for Christmas, because we moved over in June. For Christmas, they bought me a ticket home. I went back to the UK, went back to Essex, lasted 3 months and came back because everyone else had moved on. Everyone else was at uni. Everyone was doing things and living their life, and I was still back 6 months ago. So I ended up spending most of the time on my own anyway, because yeah, everyone had lives. So then decided to come back and really give it a go. And yeah, I had probably what? So I was 18 then. Yeah, 18 to 30. I just, I guess, bounded around and tried so many different things. Tried personal training, tried real estate, tried construction, which is where I met my ex-husband, and we had my son in 2013, and we moved to Sydney a couple of years after that, and we had a business that allowed him to then go into motorsport. And I remember that we'd be there, at a racetrack on the weekends, and I looked around and thought, yeah, there's distinct lack of girls here, and distinct lack of women kind of being represented within the media, or even really within the whole place in grassroots motorsport. But at the same time, yeah, I sort of would go through these ebbs and flows of every 6 weeks. I'd be okay, and I'd, do find a little passion project that would keep me going. And then 6 weeks later, I'd hit another rock bottom, and it would be like, I'm literally feeling like I'm stuck, and I can't keep doing this. Then I threw everything that I had into looking after my son and helping with the business, and had a part-time job, and just working as a secretariat and real estate at that time. Secretariat in a non-profit at the time. And then I remember this distinct conversations at Miles's first day at school. He came home and he said, "Mum, but what? There's all these things, and it's been such a big day. But what am I going to be when I grow up?" And I said to him, "Buddy, you can be anything that you want to be. Just don't let anyone tell you that you can't." And then I suddenly thought to myself, "What a hypocrite! I let one person tell me that I couldn't go to uni. I didn't even go and get a second opinion. I didn't even go and talk to another university and see what other options there were. I just went, oh, okay, dream's dead, bye," and just threw it all away, essentially, and let that voice tell me that I couldn't have it. And I said, right, that's it. And lucky enough, I was in a position where I could go back to uni, but I found the most practical course I possibly could, because I had to hit the ground running. I didn't have the gift of time anymore, because there's all these young ones. I was the oldest one by far doing a journalism degree, and I think the eldest one was maybe 23. I had nearly a solid 8 years on them.
Oh no! So were you the mature age student sitting up the front asking questions?
That was me. And they don't get me wrong, that I'm still friends with a lot of them now. And then, the thing that I said before about me being academically driven and a brown nose.
Yeah, you would have been a pain in the ass. They'd be like, "Shut up, we want to leave."
Absolutely, it was. I had to make the biggest stamp on this thing as soon as I possibly could. So I was there a year, and I was already working in and I got offered a full-time job at Supercars.
Yeah.
Like, it was, everyone was like, okay, well, just let her go, because she's doing our heads in anyway.
Yeah.
Like, she's just too trying to.
Classic.
But that's just me. I have to make sure that I do it to the absolute nth degree, which is led me to the pinnacle of motorsport. But in between deciding that I was going to do it, and then doing it with a 5-year-old that's just started school, working in the family business as well, then it was a full-time studying. That was also, you had to be writing constantly, because there was an active newsroom that you had to be contributing to. And then because I wanted to present, then it was, okay, well, you can lead the presenting team. So then I'd do that as well. Plus, I'd go and obviously work for free at grassroots events, because I wanted to get a show reel together to be able to show this is what I can do. Then I volunteered for Bathurst that year in 2019. Ended up standing at the bottom of Tower 3, which is like my pinnacle story of... I stood at Tower 3 because that's where the media centre is and where the comms box is. So they have to walk past you to get there. And I badgered everyone. Neil Crompton, Mark Scaife, Chad Naylon, Matt Nolte, Richard Crail. They all got bugged by me, saying, I want to do what you do. Can you help me? And, graciously, they all tried. But poor, Matt Nolte and Chad Naylon probably copped it. And Richard, they probably copped it the most from me. And they're so wonderful people because they handed my name across, and then another year went by of me networking and hustling and putting my name out there and doing absolutely everything that I could. I even called the CEO of Supercars at the time, Sean Seamer, and left a voicemail on his phone to say, this is what I want to do. This is who I want to be. I'll do anything to get there. You tell me what I need to do and I'll do it. And then it still took another 6 months. But after that, yeah, I got the phone call to say, we need a journalist. Are you interested? And I said yes. Then it was 3 month application process of going through all these hoops and meeting all these people and showing what I could do. And yeah, I finally got the call to say, yeah, you're in. And then that was 2021.
Bloody hell. Yeah, you know, the thing that really stands out to me and the thing that I actually have to go back to is that 18-year-old girl leaving Australia to go back home, you know, that promise being fulfilled, and then that horrific realization when you got there that it's not how you left it.
No, it's interesting. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say that just stood out to me more than anything else. And that 3 months there sitting by yourself and just going, what the hell? I can only imagine, and I guess I'm sort of asking you to dig into the depths of your brain here, and like that would have been a very hard time.
It was, especially because, you know, I had a really good, solid group of girlfriends, and, you know, they're all still very close friends now, and they were all bridesmaids at each other's weddings, and they've had kids together and everything. And, you know, that's something that I've always, you know, I actually can't follow them on Facebook or Instagram for a long time because it used to really upset me that they were all still in each other's lives. And in by no means is that their fault. Is it my fault? You just live on the other side of the world. When they're asleep, I'm awake. It's very hard to stay in touch with people. And this is also, you know, we're dinosaurs. So this was like MySpace time. Like, this wasn't even Facebook or Instagram, TikTok time, or, you know, even FaceTime. You know, it was very hard to stay in touch. And yeah, I went back, and a few of my friends were actually wanting to be in media as well. And one of them actually became a producer, a TV producer. And I could see all the things that she was doing over the years. And she'd worked exceptionally hard for them. And it was very hard to watch because that's what I wanted. And yeah, you saw, you know, and other friends of mine became nurses or, you know, did well in lots of different industries. But to, yeah, not only kind of overnight lose your close friendship group, and it's difficult for you when you do move over as an adult because you have to build those groups of friends that most of us make in school, right? That's what we normally do, is what we have friends throughout high school, and then you meet people through going out clubbing and all that sort of stuff, but it tends to be connected to that group of friends. And I didn't have that, and I've never had that. And it wasn't until I found some women within the workplace that I'm good friends with to this day. Yeah, but you still kind of, yeah, miss that whole core group of those people that you grew up with and know you so well. Yeah, that in itself, that takes a big toll on your character. It absolutely does. And like feeling displaced for a very long time. But I do say to my mum, who has only been back the once since we left in 2006, I said to her, if you went back again, it would cure any homesickness that you've got, because it's like perpetual rose tinted glasses. You remember it like it was back in 2006, and it's not like that anymore. So when you go back and you see it, you go, oh, that place only lives up in my mind. It doesn't actually exist anymore because it's so different, which Australia is so different. Everywhere is so different. It's called life. And I think that when you've moved from one place to another place and it's been a bit of a traumatic thing for you because it wasn't your decision, it's very easy to get caught in that grass is always greener and getting caught up in those childhood memories. But until you actually go back and kind of face it and go, you know what, this isn't actually what I thought it was, and it's not like that anymore, then you can actually draw a line and move forward.
And I have to ask, what was the experience like of having to come back to Australia 3 months later, tail between your legs, going? Because that would be particularly hard. I have never been good at, in particular, telling my parents that they were right. I find that particularly annoying. What was that like for you?
Look, to be honest, at the time, did not even address it. I just went, look, life's moved on over there. I don't have a future there anymore because, yeah, otherwise I would have had to just been pretty much on my own. Plus, my mum didn't deal with me going back to England very well, so part of it was is that I came back for her, and just decided that I was just going to forge some kind of life, and I think that's part of it is that it took me until my son was 5 years old, and a good 10 years later, or not 10, no, yeah, 10 years later, to actually face that and actually go, you know what, this is why you're so unhappy, Charlie, is because you decided not to pursue the one thing that makes you you. Like when I'm in front of a camera, it sounds so cliche, but when I'm in front of a camera or in front of an audience, that is Charlie. That is the most Charlie you are ever going to see. That is when I feel most alive. That is when I am most myself. Which sounds bizarre, right? Because you'd think it's when you're behind the scenes that you'd see the real me. But that is still me, but it's just not the most vibrant that I can possibly be. It's me when I'm trying to organize everything and I'm trying to, be a mum and be a PR exec, and I'm trying to service everyone else. But when I'm in front of a camera and when I'm on stage, that's when I'm servicing me. That's when I'm most me. So, it took me a long time, as I said, a decade, to say, you know what, it's okay if you want this. It's okay. You can go and chase this now. So, and if you don't, Charlie, you're not going to you're not going to ever make it, and you're going to be in this perpetual 6 weeks of being okay and then going down to rock bottom again. You're going to live that for the rest of your life because this is truly what I'm meant to be doing. So yeah, this is getting really deep, isn't it? Wow. Okay.
Well, it is, but this is my favourite thing. Yeah, and I love this, and I think that it's important because it's my favourite part about this sort of discussion is that we can take the time. There's no rules here. There's no time frame that we have to stick to. We don't have to cut back in 7 seconds. And as we've sort of talked about before we sort of jumped into this, it's that human experience, and it's that very real human experience. And interestingly, it's why I'm asking you about some of these things, because they're the things that people relate to. Being an 18-year-old, being lost, being a 20-year-old, being lost, trying things, getting rejected, being told by an institution that you're not good enough. Here's a funny story for you. All I wanted to do, the only thing I was good at, was video in school. Only thing. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but that I had a natural ability. And I applied to do that out of school. There was only one place to go to, and I put everything into it, everything I had. And they said no. And there was nowhere else to go. There was no other place. And the same as you, I went, oh, well, it's the end of that, because this was the 90s. And to make film or production or any of that stuff, couldn't do it. But that tapped away at me, and it never went away until I found a way to bring it back. And it resurfaced. And much the same as you, when you say you're in front of people and the joy that brings you, when I do this stuff, when I talk to people, when I bring, when I spend this time with people and when I bring these sorts of things, I'm never more me than when I'm doing this sort of stuff. It's my favourite version of myself. I'm the most on. I'm operating at my highest capacity. And I truly understand what you are saying, and it's something that's worth hunting for, and it's something that's worth dealing with the shitty jobs and the shitty managers and the shitty people that treat you badly, where you go, hang on, this actually isn't okay. I am worth more than this. because I was interested to ask you. You sort of said, you started off with hospitality type jobs. What sort of stuff were you doing? Were you working in the bars? Were you serving coffees? Like what sort of stuff were you doing when you got started?
Yeah, so I worked in a cafe in Mooloolaba on the Sunshine Coast. That's where we moved to, quintessential British family. Where are you going to go? The beach. So we got there, and then I quickly realised if you weren't in real estate or a retiree, there's not much to do in terms of a career on the Sunshine Coast.
Yeah,
So,
mate, you do hot laps at Mooloolaba.
hot laps?
Yeah, mate, on the front there, you do fat laps in your cars and you just cruise. That's what you do.
I know, and I used to watch those guys go around and around a bit. I used to work in a cafe right there, right next to, the loo with the view.
Yeah. Mate, how good's the loo with
Yeah,
the view? Isn't that the most
it is.
Australian thing?
It is so funny, so funny. And honestly, I thought I was going to become a cop. I thought I was for a while. That was something that probably because the amount of drugs that are on the Sunshine Coast, but also just because I just wanted to make a difference. And I think I then volunteered for the Street Angels, which is we used to get confused for the Red Frogs all the time, but we weren't like that. It wasn't anything to do with anything religious. It was that on a Friday and Saturday night, we would kind of patrol the streets, and if anyone was intoxicated or needed help or anything like that, that we would look after them and try and get them home. And we were kind of like a community service to help the police in a way so that not everyone ended up in lockup. And funny enough, so I was working in the cafe, so I'd do that during the week, and then I'd work during the day in the cafe because the cafe would close at 6 p.m, and then I'd go be a street angel. And you'd get, your rosters and stuff like that. But because I was young and, sleep, I didn't need as much sleep as what I need now. It does make me laugh when I think about, not sleeping much and then getting up and going to work the next day, but and how I survived doing that. Then I remember I volunteered for Street Angels on New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve in Mooloolaba, if you've ever experienced it, is people were rolling in drunk by 7 p.m, like legless drunk by 7 p.m. And my shift finished at 2 a.m. So the stuff I saw that night, in terms of the amount of people I saw thrown in paddy wagons, and when I get it, right? You probably your tolerance as a police officer on that night probably goes down to literally zero because there's so many people in that kind of state.
Yeah.
And we had a tent set up that we were bringing people back and trying to, sober them up somewhat so then we could at least put them in a taxi home, and help out the ambulance service and, help out the cops. And there was this one girl that I was trying to reason with outside of the Fridays nightclub. And I'm saying to her, look, give me your phone, let me call someone and get them here. If you don't stop screaming and carrying on, you're going to spend the night in jail. Just let me help you. And she was past helping. And I just went to the officer and I went, look, give me another 5 minutes with her. Just give me another 5 minutes. And he went, you got 5 minutes or I'll throw her in the wagon. And I go, right, fine, no worries. I go and talk to her, sit her down. I get her calm. And then her phone rings and she just starts screaming and crying down the phone. And the copper just goes, no, that's it. Gets her, throws her in a paddy wagon. That's it, done. And I just went, I can't do this. I can't do this job. I can't be a copper. And I was already training. I was trying to get really fit for it. And I'd already done the application and all that sort of stuff. And just went, no, I can't do that. So, it wasn't like I didn't try and find these other passions and pursue these other things and try and see where I fitted. But still, nothing felt right until I fully decided that was what I was going to do. And it's interesting because I do believe in the power of the universe, and different opportunities for presenting would come up in the oddest ways. And I would pursue it to a point and then go, no, you can't do that. No, you can't have that. You can't have that because you don't have the qualifications, or you haven't started from a young age, or you haven't gone through the news realm of being on the beat and then deciding to, be a Channel 9 presenter and move your way through that way. You didn't go that typical way. So no, you can't have it, Charlie. It's not for you. You got to put that to bed. And it's not until, like I said, when my son went to school and I had that pivotal conversation with him that I realised that I could do that for forever. I'd never truly be happy.
Isn't that funny? So you were actually getting opportunities to host things. Like that was happening. People were coming to you and going, oh, hey, because they realised that you were, I guess, just good in front of a crowd and had an energy that resonated with people. Was that sort of what was happening, or what were the opportunities?
Well, I won a competition to so my son went to Good Start Early Learning childcare centres. So I just won a competition to be on like a round group table that they wanted to film about women's experiences, putting their children in childcare. It was like basically a sponsored ad, right? But it was with Fifi Box. So we got flown. I lived in Brisbane then. We got flown to Melbourne, spent the night, and the next morning we went to a studio and we sat in a round table, all these cameras. Fifi Box was leading the conversation, and we did, different questions and different grabs. And there was women from different walks of life, women with different age children, women that didn't work, stay-at-home mums, all that sort of stuff. And I just sat around that table and they asked questions and I just spoke. And afterwards, the producer came up to me and she said, look, we actually really want to work with you. Would you be interested in doing some other things with us? And I looked at her and went, what do you mean work with me?
Wow.
I was like, Fifi Box is sitting there. What are you talking about? And I was doing community radio at the time because I was, studying as well. And they were like, we'd love for you to be a kind of like an ambassador, like a mum ambassador for us and a real world ambassador. Would you be interested in doing some like stuff with us? And I'm sitting there going, what are they on about? Like, no, this is bizarre. Anyway, so I went, look, yes, you've got my details. And just thought I'd never hear from them again. I thought she was just being really nice, and they were exceptionally nice ladies. Oh my gosh, I loved working with them. That day was amazing. And I just thought, you know what, it's great. I've probably got some really good footage of myself out of it, and I can use the photos they took of me on my LinkedIn. That'd be great. I look good. And I'll probably use them on my LinkedIn forever, like everyone does. And thought I'd never hear anything again. And then Miles actually was starting school, and they wanted to do the transition from, school, from childcare to school. And then they also wanted to follow Miles at a day in his childcare, and then also like my impressions of childcare. So they sent a whole camera crew to my house. And I filmed all this stuff, driving him to and from childcare, all that kind of stuff. And I had to do pieces to camera, and it was just, an amazing experience.
Wow.
Amazing experience. And from that, I was able to use that as part of my show reel as well.
Absolutely.
To get exactly it in motorsport. Yeah.
So as you said, the universe was talking to you. You were just struggling to listen. You were doing the community radio as well, because you just dropped that little chestnut. Tell me about that.
So I wanted to do, because I dabbled in podcasting as well at the time, because I worked out that I wanted to do. I'd worked out that I wanted to do something creative. Like I said, I had all these passion projects, but they weren't quite hitting the mark. I did community radio for a little bit. I really enjoyed it because, I got to learn how to do radio, and, I was reading the news and I was reading different things. And then I went and did, and I was interviewing people as well, which was, a skill that obviously you need as a journalist anyway. So it was all sort of helping alongside my studies. And I don't know, was this prior? No, this is alongside it all. No, that is true, alongside it all. And then I sort of partnered with another girl who was a business owner, and she wanted to turn it sort of more into a speaking to women in business kind of thing. And I did that for a while, but it wasn't quite what I wanted to speak about. But through that, I met a whole bunch of women, in Brisbane, working in their own businesses, and went to a couple of their events, and hosted a few things there, and sort of was through that whole process realised that was where I was meant to be. But it was on it was also in Sydney was the community radio that I was on. So I was hosting different events for Australia Day, and actually someone heard the live broadcast that I did with a young Aboriginal artist, and he actually came up to me and said that sounded exactly like it sounded exactly like commercial radio. He said it sounded like you were on the Kyle and Jackie O show. He's like, that's what it sounded like. That's how sort of natural and engaging that it sounded. It didn't sound like what you'd naturally hear on community radio. So when I heard that, I was like, okay, I've got to keep scratching at this because there's something here. So, yeah, it's funny. I haven't thought about that community radio station in a very long time.
Oh, it's wild. And it's my favourite, again, it's my favourite Steve Jobs. You can only connect the dots looking back. And I love how all these sometimes seemingly insignificant things that you do, when you actually start mapping them out, you're like, whoa. And you sort of see how these things, push and pull you towards the place that, you're ultimately trying to go. The other one I have to ask you about, personal training. When, how, why? This is clearly helping people as well. This is the natural communicator and wanting to make a difference in people. But you gotta back up and tell me that story as well.
Well, yeah, when I was told that I couldn't go to uni, and I was just like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Just started looking around absolutely everywhere. I think fitness was never a massive part of my life. It still isn't to this day. I absolutely struggle. But I am a Virgo, so I have that kind of, I always want to try and be well and look after myself. And that's something that I've always done throughout my life. Absolutely love chocolate though, so I'm not all that good at it, but I would eat chocolate for breakfast, lunch and dinner if I could.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah. But yeah, and then because my parents had said, look, you need to go get a job. You're not just sitting around and being a bum here. You're not going to go be a beach bum. It's you need to go and do something. So I thought, yeah, I'll go and also I need to meet people. I need to make friends, and I need to be around some positive people because I was in a place where I felt extremely lost. So, my mum sort of just went, well, why don't you just give it a go? Just give it a go. And they kindly offered to pay for the course, which was fantastic. So then, I went and did that, and it was like full time, like 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. every single day for 8 weeks, which I know sounds crazy, but when you're studying to be like a personal trainer just in a gym, I wasn't a full, what you would say people that study it and really learn like at uni and learn the whole physicality of the body and all that sort of stuff. No, this was kind of more surface level physical personal training. Then you could certainly go further into it, but this was just to kick you off and to get you into the industry. I did it and I completed it, and I did discover Muay Thai boxing through it, and boxing I absolutely love. So, I sort of learned all those techniques through it and learned how to exercise properly without sort of hurting myself. And was surrounded by positive people, which was great. Unfortunately, the GFC hit not long after. So people's disposable incomes plummeted. And I then also soon discovered, and I think this is something that led me to go and do the most practical journalism course, was because once I finished that course and the personal training course, when I came out of it, I realised that it actually wasn't very well regarded within the industry.
Right.
So I actually couldn't get a job. Yeah. So I had to go and then try and build a business of my own. And as an 18-year-old, I really didn't have that. And also someone that was struggling with where they were going in life, I couldn't quite grab the bull by the horns and do that. So that's why I went into real estate from there. I had to go and get a full-time job and through working in hospitality to sort of part-time. My best friend at the time, she'd moved into real estate. So then I decided that's what I was going to do as well.
Far out. And then you've gone and slogged it out there as well.
Yeah, I thought I'd found it when I got to real estate.
Really?
And still now, real estate does keep popping up in my life.
Interesting.
yeah, I think also I do think if I could have gone back in time and had the knowledge of what I had now, obviously hindsight would be great. Um, there is a lot of video and a lot of presenting in real estate, um, especially like now. That's how people, obviously realestate.com and yeah, creating property videos and all the rest,
Oh
and
yeah.
also being an auctioneer. Yeah, there's a lot of performance and a lot of in front of camera and a lot of things that I probably could have done in real estate if the technology and the opportunity would have been. I just wasn't right place, right time in real estate. That was all.
No, that wasn't the one. And then
No.
you've got it's a really wonderful story, and I really appreciate you sharing it with me, because this is where I sort of jump forward as well. And I saw recently when you were at Queensland Raceway, could you tell me a little bit about what you're doing with women in motorsport?
Yeah, so Girls on Track, it's with Motorsport Australia. They run the program. So Jess Dane, who's an ambassador and also the co-owner of Triple Eight Race Engineering, she brought it over from the UK. And I think we're all extremely grateful that she fought for it to come over here. So I'm a champion. So that we've got our ambassadors, which are Jess Dane, Romy Meyer, who's a very well-regarded race engineer. We have Kate Peck, who's a motorsport presenter. We have Emma Norta Francesco, who is a motorsport presenter and also works in automotive. And Nadine. Oh, sorry, I've forgotten Nadine's surname. That's just escaped me then, because I'm thinking of her Instagram handle. Nadine Armstrong.
There
There we
you
go.
go.
Nadine Armstrong, who works at car sales, also pretty much forged a career in automotive when there really wasn't a lot of women in it. And there still isn't a lot of women in it, but she was definitely a pioneer in that space. And she's just a beautiful human being. And yes, and then it's run by a woman called Priyanka Chanda. She runs it on behalf of, or works for Motorsport Australia, and runs it all over the country. And we have different workshops. That's probably the best way to put it. So we have the Inspire, which is just to introduce young girls. It's aimed at girls sort of 5 through to 15. And it's just to introduce them to motorsport. It can be some of them, for some of them, their first taste in the sport, and we get them doing things like STEM workshops where they're coding a car and programming a car to make it do a certain circuit. So they're actually like building it and then engineering it. Then we've got pit stop challenges, we've got fitness challenges, we've got media workshops that myself and Nadine and Emma and Kate and Jess run. And also, what else is there as well? Yeah, I believe that's most of the workshops
Yeah.
that we do. And then sometimes we do it in conjunction with go-karting, like if we're at Norwell Raceway and things like that. Yeah, so it's to give them that flavour and get them to understand the different roles of different things that are involved in motorsport. Then we have the Inspire program, which is for girls that already kind of know motorsport is where they want to be, and it allows them to not only see more in depth of the roles that are available or they could possibly work in, it's also networking and also giving us an opportunity to see whether we could mentor a young girl. So those girls are normally sort of in year 12 and sort of through to their, I guess, their very early 20s. Yes, so that was a goal of mine when I first joined joined motorsport in 2019, but then also got the job in Supercars in 2021, is that I wanted to be really part of this, because of my own journey, right? Because I'd spent so long not pursuing what I wanted. I didn't want anyone else to have to go kind of through that. I wanted to help them. And then also, it's the biggest question that I get asked all the time, but all the time in my DMs in Instagram, is because that's where I'm most active, is how did you get to where you are? How did you do it? What did you study? And I'm literally like, don't talk to me about study, because
I am not the one.
I'm not the ambassador for study. What I am the ambassador for is working extremely hard and networking, and being that person that your name is at the forefront of their mind. And it's interesting because at Queensland Raceway, I stepped in for Jess Dane because she was doing a final uni exams for law, And the day before, we'd been at Triple Eight, and I had hosted that event, and that was a pathways event that was a little bit different in terms of we'd got these girls that were all interested in engineering, and we sat them down and lots of Q&As, not only with Jess, but with Mark Dutton, team manager, Jeremy Moore, who's the technical guru there, and then also a young guy, Nick, who's just joined as a data engineer. And we were really honest about pursuing a job in this sport, and especially in that engineering realm, and what it actually takes to get there. And because we see a lot of girls that age sort of applying for jobs, and their resume is just saying that they've worked at, their part-time job at KFC, and this is what they're studying, and there's not much else. And we're trying to say that, there are other candidates, and a lot of them boys, that are coming with grassroots motorsport experience. But yes, a lot of these girls do join their university motorsport teams, Motorsport SAE, and they run it in that realm, which is great, brilliant, because you'll see all of the different jobs that you can possibly see play out in that space. And they have to go and race an actual race car that they've built and got sponsorship for and marketed and all the rest and organised. So that's very, very good for them to understand that. But then also these boys are going and getting real world experience in grassroots motorsport. And there's a lot of girls that aren't doing that. So it's a great opportunity for us to say, look, this is what it takes. This is what you need to be doing. You need to be showing that next level for them to give you a go, and for you to put yourself at the forefront of these other candidates. And then, we did it again at Queensland Raceway. And because I'd stepped in for Jess to host that, I took on all of Jess's, slides and points, and Nadine and I were hosting it. And I looked at all of the points, and I was like, gosh, this is some tough love. Like, I'm going to have to stand on a soapbox here and really tell these girls how it is. And that was just it. And I kind of realised from that moment that that's probably the message where I think that I'm going to help people. That's probably the message that I'm here to deliver, is that, yes, you can study as much as you want, and yes, you can join Motorsport SAE, and yes, you can do the things in grassroots, but if you're not ready to put yourself to that next level, motorsport is like, there's just not enough jobs. And I feel so bad saying it, but there's just not. Like, we've got 11 teams in Supercars, and you're lucky if all of them have got a team coordinator, and there's only one of them. And I'm standing there in front of a room of 50 girls, and I've got to tell them that maybe only one of them might get a team coordinator job. And I think that what I so applaud the Girls on Track program for doing is being honest about that and saying, we would love to help every single one of you have a job here. We would love to. But we know that there's probably, in the Supercars pit lane, there's probably only maybe 9 team coordinator roles, maybe. Or there's maybe 11 PR and media roles. There's a lot more engineering roles, but not that many more. Most teams have one data engineer. Some teams have a data engineer that might also be like doing some mechanical things as well, or also a race engineer, and also might be doing team coordination. Like, there's different variances of what different teams have at their disposal, because it's to pay people, and by no means am I trying to be negative, because there are those opportunities internationally. Of course there are. There are plenty of girls I've seen come through the Girls on Track program that are now working overseas. And it's amazing, because then we also get to showcase the incredible talent that we have here in Australia on the world stage. And people like Jeremy Moore, they've gone and done that. Gone and worked and won Le Mans. Like, it's fantastic. And it's great that we can say that we have that caliber within, our domestic motorsport. But also, I think it's important to note that our exports are very highly well regarded, because we are kind of seen as the guys that just have to make stuff work. So in Formula One, when you've got like one person that looks after one tyre, and they've got all the possible parts they could possibly need for anything that could possibly go wrong, in Australia, we don't have that kind of luxury. So you need to be a jacker of all trades and master of them all as well. And, we've got some of the best mechanics and the best engineers in the world, because we have to bush fix a lot of stuff and we have to make stuff work we don't have all the tools. So I think that makes me smile, because I know that if there's not enough jobs for us here, hopefully there are so many girls that go overseas and can just forge incredible careers over there.
But what you're talking about there, and particularly in Supercars paddock, is that's the top 1%. With what you're looking at there, that is not just the best of the best, but like that's the best of the best of the best. I mean, you are operating in rare air, and I think that it is lovely for people to see that, and I think that it is lovely for them to have an understanding that that's there and there is a path. But I think it is actually equally important for them to know that the only way, the only path in, is you have to outwork every other person around you. There's no other strategy. Nothing else works. And even down to, I actually think it's wonderful advice. I actually think that that's the grassroots involvement. Nothing teaches you motorsport better than backyarding, like with your friends, helping your friend who runs a kart or a drift car or a something that, you know, does the grassroots of grassroots motorsport. When you're there and you don't have the tool and you got to fix the thing, and mate, you are the king of zip ties and gaff tape. Nothing prepares you better than when you move into a place and you're like, wow, you guys have tools? Get out of town. I still remember like the first time I worked with a team that had a transporter, and I'm like, what is this wizardry? Like, you don't have to be in the rain. Oh my God, you don't have to carry everything in the backseat of your car. This is extraordinary. Having people exposed to that, because as you said, you know, if you're doing cafe work, if you're waiting tables, if you're doing that sort of stuff, you actually don't understand the intensity of what's required in the job. The intensity is revolting. You have to not sleep, push your body, go without food, go without water, not see your friends, disappoint your family. All of these things, which are not, you know, you can't put those in the glossy brochure, but that's actually what it takes. And you can't just do it once. You got to do it for years, because lots of people do it once. But if you've done it for 3 years, 5 years, you know, then people go, you're an animal. Like that's the secret, and that's the thing that people look for, and particularly in that top echelons of motorsport, is that person that will keep turning up with the same enthusiasm on day 700 as they do on day one. And that is the same in anything, in any top end of business, top end of sport, top end of anything. That's the common denominator, that in terms of what I've seen. And I actually think that that's beautiful, that that's what you're telling people. And I've got to laugh. I'm of the age now where lots of my friends have teenage kids, and they look at what I do and they're like, man, you like do cool stuff and go to cool places and make cool things and have cool toys and drive cool cars. And they're like, that's the best. How do I do that? And I'm like, I don't know if you're ready for me to tell you how much crying in the fetal position I've done. My advice, and I quite often do these meetings with the parent and the child, and my first piece of advice for them is that what I do is a terrible, terrible career choice. That is my first piece of advice, is that this is a bad idea. And then I say, but if you're comfortable with that, it's an extraordinary life. And it's very much, I guess, that tough love that you've got to deliver as well to, you know, those young hopeful faces, to go, I'm sorry to be the one to tell you that maybe one of you will get through, maybe. But there is a massive opportunity more broadly, because it's not just the top tier teams. There are entire businesses, industries that work in, around and support, and all of those need wonderful people that understand it, that speak the language, that understand the discipline, understand what's required, understand that not sending that thing today and not making that phone call today has catastrophic results You can't leave that till tomorrow. And Charlie, I think that's beautiful things to be telling, kids, I guess, who are, young people, sorry, I think is the correct terminology. So young people that are looking to go into these things. That's just good old-fashioned hard work. That's what our parents told us. What you got to do is you just got to put your back into it and have your teaspoon of concrete and, yeah.
Yeah, I think literally one of the first sentences out of my mouth and as soon as I open up the show is at the Girls on Track events is, okay, bottom line, if you're looking for a 9-to-5 job, there's the door. And because I'm like, this is not a 9-to-5. You sign over your life to this thing because you love it. It is what gets you up at 5 a.m. What time did I wake up on Sunday for Adelaide at the Bend? Because we had an hour's drive from where we were staying. And then because I'm on camera, I have to do hair and makeup. So I woke up at 4:30 to leave at 6 to be at the track for 7. So it's that. And that means I've already been doing that since Thursday. And I'm there. What time did we leave Sunday? 8 p.m., 7 p.m., 7 p.m. and drove back to Adelaide, which is an hour and a bit drive. So that's typical. That's normal.
That's normal.
Yes, I'm fed. Yes, I've got a nice, cozy sort of media truck to watch the race from. But I'm running around. I'm making sure drivers are standing on podiums and smiling and spraying the champagne. And then I've got to drag them to the media conference and make them sit there and say what they need to say there. And then we've got to make sure we've got all the content that we need, clip it all up. We get sent out to news and everyone's got everything they need. And then we've got to pack the bloody media truck up. No one does that for you. You've got to pack all of that up. I've got to take all the bins out. I've got to make sure all the food and, I buy the food for the media truck for the boys. But I do it because I love it and I want to see the sport go well. And I love the people that are in it more than anything else. And that's why I stay. That's why I'm here, is because I love the people and I love travel. And it's just, I have to be really honest with anyone coming into it because also I want to protect it, right? I don't want, I guess, people coming into it for the wrong reasons and it hurting them and it hurting the sport. And I know it sounds a really silly thing to say, the sport doesn't have feelings, but it's just, I want people to enjoy it and love it as much as I do. But I have to be so honest about the fact that, if you want to clock off at a certain time,
mate,
no.
You're in the wrong game.
It's not like they're not slave driving you.
No.
And no one's standing over you saying you cannot go home. It's not like that whatsoever. It's just you dig in and you get the job done and you are there because, you want the best for everyone else there because you see it when you're on the front lines. You see the highs and lows of motorsport. Oh, my gosh, you could be, on the weekend, I'm talking to Jack LeBrock before the race and then you see him, unfortunately make a few mistakes and, 4 cars get near enough totaled and you're just like, oh, my God, like you just think what the teams then go through to bring those cars back to life. And, when we moved to Gen 3 at the start of this year, I know several mechanics personally. I'm good friends with them. And some of these guys did not see their families for weeks and weeks, like over Christmas, because they were just building these cars incessantly. And we had a deadline and they had to be made. And, I think in Newcastle, I made a real big point of saying it on the big screen that we are just so indebted to everyone that have worked on these cars and have built them and engineered them and then bloody got them here on time. And everyone in every single team was so indebted to their hard work over that off season. They didn't have one, and it did. It broke a few people that I knew. It absolutely broke them. And they said, that's it, I've got to take some time away. They've since come back as
contractors. Of course they have, because you can't help yourself.
Because you can't help yourself. But still, this sport has the ability, and I don't mean just supercars, I mean motorsport. It has the ability to break you.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it's something that you pour yourself into because you love it and it's a passion, and it can stamp all over you and be so cruel. But then it can deliver you some of the most amazing moments that you will never forget. Like I have the absolute thrill of standing there and watching Shane Van Gisbergen do the most incredible burnout in Adelaide last year. I was up along the fence line behind his team, watching it unfold, and the shivers down my spine and the cheers from the crowd were just insane. It's a moment I'll never, ever, ever forget. And then I got, another front row seat to when we were in Pukekohe last year, and watching Shane win again. And just, I was standing, actually was taking social media videos, like social posts, and I was standing at the final corner in the field amongst everyone, and it was incredible. Absolutely, just live sport has the ability to just transport you to somewhere completely amazing, and to be involved in that, and to say that, I was there in those moments, and I, helped do a tiny, weeny little thing to share it, is just that in itself is a drug that I can't give up. And it's, as much as, the bloody place can drive me absolutely crazy, it also delivers me some of the biggest highs of my entire life.
And that's why we all come back. Even when it chews us up and spits us out, we turn up again, but we all go through it. And if you watch and particularly if you are involved with race teams, and when something happens, when there's an altercation and a car breaks, you got to fix it. And you are not going home, because like any good sporting team, if one person steps away and goes, oh, bugger it, then the whole team collapses. And you know that you must work together to get it right, because that's what the team needs. And for you to be there and for you to operate at that level, you are the sort of person that goes, this is not great, because not only am I not sleeping tonight and I have to fix this thing, then I've got to go back to performing at my very best tomorrow and the next day. And there's no way to show people that. You have to live it. You have to live operating on no sleep. You have to live that, and then go through those traumatizing ups and downs. Because the thing is when it does come together, as you said, those moments, those just most surreal, like out-of-body experiences, I find some of those things where you're standing in a place and you're like, how did I get here? And you're looking around at the things that are happening and you're like, this is just, it makes sense that the race drivers are there and the engineers are there and all these things, but to be a part of that machine and to be able to do your bit as part of that is just, it's such a gift. It is such a gift. And it's fun talking to you about it and hearing that enthusiasm that you have for it. Because what's funny is you talk to anyone that's in this stuff at any level, and they all say the same things. The enthusiasm is the same. The eyes light up the same way. And you carry on talk like this is this is the first time we've met, and we're here. You can just you go straight down the rabbit hole because you all get it, and it's a really magical thing.
Yeah, I think it's also important. I think I do not do this enough because I still have goals, and I still have a picture in my mind of what I wanted when I first came into this sport. And, I wanted to be the host of the whole bloody thing. And I wanted to work exceptionally hard to get there and all the rest. And, you meet roadblocks along the way, like everyone does, and challenges. And you might be wrong place, right place, wrong time, all that kind of stuff, or wrong person, it doesn't quite fit. I only really within the last few weeks, I'll be brutally honest, have I actually sat there and gone, if you told Charlie in 2019 that this is what you'd be doing, she would have laughed you straight out the door. And not only have you been, this is my third season with Supercars, And now that I've moved from journalism to PR and media, I'm at the forefront of, yeah, like I'm the one grabbing Tom Randall on his first career podium and going, mate, come on, let's get to the podium. Come on, come on, come on. Come on, and dragging him over there. Like, that's an amazing moment in his career. And I'm walking right next to him. And, you know, like I get to host Q&As with Craig Lowndes, someone that when people see him, you literally see their minds explode in front of you and their eyes light up because he just means so much to so many people. And, you know, he's been racing since, like, we looked at this today, like, what was it? Because we're going to Sandown next in a couple of weeks. And, you know, he won Sandown, I think it was in 1996. And the person that won it the year before was Dick Johnson.
Wow.
Like, Craig Lowndes is a big deal.
Yeah.
Like,
no doubt. Yeah.
Yeah. And I get to, you know, do Q&As with him every race weekend. You know, I get to stand there and talk to him and chat to him. He knows me. He knows my name. He knows, you know, we're friends. Like, and I just sit there and go,
wow.
I do not appreciate this enough, because you're thinking about where you want to be next. You're thinking, well, if I work really hard now, I want this and I want that and I want this and I want that. And yeah, of course, it's great to have that. It really is. And I'll never stop pushing for that, because I can't sit stagnant because of, you know, where I've been, where, you know, I've sat stagnant for a decade and it's not good for me. I know it's not good for me, but still I've been in the same job pretty much for 3 years. I struggle with that. But I've been in the same business at 3 years. You know, I struggle with thinking, oh no, I haven't moved forward enough. I haven't progressed enough.
Well, you worry. You go, oh no, there's isn't this crazy thing that we do to ourselves, and you go, oh no, this is it for me. But then simultaneously, you're like, but hang on, this is great, and this is the double-edged sword of making something of yourself. Is that as far as you take it, there's always further. And that is a never-ending battle. And that's and I think that's would be one of the very hard things to convey to, again, you know, those smiling faces, to go, because they'd look at you and they're like, well, that's it. That's the pinnacle. You know, how do I get there? And then this is the heartbreaking reality, is when you actually achieve the things of your dreams and you get there and you peek over the top, you're like, damn it. Like, there's another mountain. I'm like, what idiot put that there? And I'm like, hang on, that was me. I'm that idiot. And that's it's a real challenge for the people that want to operate at that level. Because to be that good, you've got to be like that. And it is the blessing and the curse that comes with it. And again, you talk to anybody in these roles at any level, at all of them, they're all going, yeah, well, this is good, but, you know, I made it here, so maybe I could do that. And it's embedded in us. We're hardwired.
Yeah, I don't think, you can't get away from it. I think,
can't.
You know, I've still got, if I was to stay within, you know, the PR and media realm, for example, you know, I could become the media manager and then the head of comms. And I think I look at those roles and I just go, oh my God, they work so much harder than I do.
They're huge
my life.
jobs.
Like, that is, like, I think my boss told me, he's the head of comms, and he told me, it's, you know, on the exceptionally rare time that he goes away on an actual holiday, which he hadn't had one for 4 years.
Wow.
He put his phone down and him and his wife timed it. And in a 3-minute period, he had close to 100 phone calls and like just as many emails and text messages. Like, it was insane. And that's a non-race week. That's not a race week.
Wow.
That's just, you know, we're getting ready to go racing.
Yeah.
Like, the level that he is operating at with a young child just blows me away. And then through COVID, you know, a lot of people, as everyone did, everyone had to downsize. We weren't racing, all the rest of it. Went on skeleton crew, all the rest of it. You know, he was working around the clock to help us go racing again. And then when we came back to normal, there wasn't at the time the ability to replace those support people for him. So he was doing the whole job. He was doing my job, the media manager's job, and the head of comms for literally 2 years on his own. I don't know. Literally, I took over the job at the start of this year. Within the first week, I sat there and went, how did you do this? How? Like, I've taken like a
Oh,
small chunk off of you, and I don't know how you've done this for 2 years and not crumbled. Like, it's just unbelievable. And just to think that those are the people in our sport. Like,
yeah,
those are the people that keep literally a pun, the wheels turning.
correct.
And he's not a major like motorsport head or anything like that. He's not doing it because he, dreamed of being part of it. He's doing it because he loves working in sport. He's
Loves the
worked for
job. Yeah.
different codes of sport. Like, the ones with the balls and stuff. I don't get that
Yeah.
sport. I don't know what that sport
Yeah.
is. But yes, so he's someone that loves communications within sport. And he's exceptionally good at storytelling and knowing where the news is, and has taken the coverage of supercars to another level in terms of we compete and our um, the news packages that we deliver and the level that we deliver is world class, which is fantastic. So it's just to see the people that we have in this sport, and the people that you get to work with and the people that you learn from is again part of the reason why you do dig in and work so hard, because you know the person next to you and the people above you are working
Yeah.
twice as hard. And I think it's so yeah, it's interesting when you think about where you want to go next and what you want to do. And yeah, a lot of people sort of said to me, journalism to PR, that's a weird, like, why have you done that? It's like, well, really for me, it was future proofing. Because journalism was changing so fast, and also it's difficult being a female journalist in motorsport. In Australia, it is tricky, and then also where my life is at in terms of being, a single mum and trying to forge a career in presenting. PR and media was just better for me, to give me that kind of longevity and somewhere I could go with it if I decided that, okay, presenting's not going to quite go where I think it's going to go, then, or I'd hope it would go, then at least I can be, head of comms somewhere, and those skills will translate to, lots of different sporting codes, as my boss has proven.
And that's very much, the comment earlier is for all those people that think that this might be their place. Is there are spaces, and but you've also got to think more broadly and understand that the diversification is actually super valuable, and potentially having time in other codes, other disciplines, other things, so that you then have a depth of knowledge, a depth of contacts, a depth of experiences that you can then draw on as you find yourself climbing the ranks and in those pressure cooker positions. You've got a capacity to draw on where you sort of go, look, I've seen this before. Yes, it's complex, but here's a way through that I've seen work. And I think that they're also wonderful messages to be sharing with people, to go that these things, it's not any one thing, and it's not your journalism degree, and it's not your PR or journalism or media or marketing. And here's what's funny, as somebody who sits on the other side, I will get in trouble for saying this. I don't see the difference. Like, you make media. Sure, you have different specializations, but you create stuff for people to consume. You put it in at different parts of the cycle, but that's what you do. You create media. And I just see the whole media machine as just an operation, and then you just find the bit, you do find the bit that you like, but the crossover between the skills, as you diversify, it's very easy to push down, one to the other, because they cross over so strongly, and particularly with all the tech that we have these days, all these things just blend into one.
Yeah, I think and again, it's what I say to a lot of the girls at Girls on Track. It's about, just building a really broad skill set. Like, yes, there are certain, within a race team, you can't fake being an engineer.
No.
You need to go and do those things. But also, even as an engineer, that opens a door to you for team management. That opens a door to you for commercial management. Perhaps that's where you want to go. Or there's also different specializations. If money's your thing, finance is your thing.
Oh yeah.
A lot of teams need CFOs.
Absolutely.
They need them. The supercars need a CFO. If you're interested in law, we have a lawyer at Supercars that goes through all the contracts. You need someone that does that. HR, physio. There's so many different things that you can lend yourself to motorsport, but they certainly do take a level of a degree, a level of you need to go and actually do get this bit of paper. Whereas in media, we've got that funny kind of line where you can learn the skills more on the job. And I think I definitely had an affinity for it anyway. And then I've applied what I have, and I've pushed, literally bullhorned my way in. But then I had to take a step back and go, okay, so how the hell do I do this thing? Because I do have a skill in life that I get through the door, and then I figure out what to do once I'm there. Like, I have the basics and I know a little bit, but then I have to really push myself to go, okay, you need to be able to write a decent story now. You need to be able to go and interview that person now, or I just figure out as I go. And I think that pushing yourself past and outside of that comfort zone, again, is something that I say so often, is that, barge your way through the door, then ask permission to be there. That's really how I kind of look at it. And also that you do have to have a really, really strong self-belief that you will figure it out. And 9 times out of 10, most of us at the top level as well all sit there and go, how the hell how do you do that? Or everyone feels like they're an imposter at some point. Everyone feels like there is that one thing that's their weakness that they don't know. And you either lean on your team to help you with that weakness, or you figure out how to do it. And I think, and especially in motorsport, because you do wear so many hats, like your job is not just that job. Yes, in a race weekend, I'll be buying the food for the media truck and setting up the media truck and being more of like a logistics coordinator for my team. And then also be running the whole PR schedule, making sure that, every driver is where I need them to be at the right time. And I do that not only for the PR and media, I do it for the actual TV guys if they need to capture something, or a team's doing a livery launch or something like that. Then I'm making sure all of those cogs are moving. And then I'm going and hosting a Q&A, or I'm doing big screen, or then I'm booking the team dinner. Like, it's sort of, that's just, and everyone in motorsport has all those different hats. And it's, I think within any industry really, or any job, I think the biggest asset that you could really have for yourself is being a really good communicator and digging in and just saying yes and just getting it done. And even if it's not quite what you want at the time, or only part of it is what you like, along the way you find a whole bunch of things that you do really like. But then also keeping in mind that the workplace is evolving faster than it ever has been, because technology is changing it all. And there are jobs now that I know, my son is in school now, but there's going to be jobs that either don't exist anymore or never existed before he gets to the age of heading for a job. So, social media manager was not a thing when I was at school. It was not a thing. Now it's one of the biggest things that is needed within motorsport and within digital media. So I think that just never close yourself off to anything, and because you're evolving as a human as well, I think you just need to just make sure that you're adaptable too.
And that's the big one, isn't it? Is just, and it sort of, our conversation keeps coming back to, I guess, those sort of key points of, and this is something I often laugh about. It is so hard to make something of yourself, and it requires such extraordinary belief and effort. And I guess that's the thing that is so important for people to understand is that this stuff doesn't happen magically. And, you know, they'll see you up on the big screen or they'll see you up on the podium and they'll like, but how? And it's not, that's the thing, it's not about how. It was a conscious decision, and then you just keep marching towards it. And then even when you get there, even when you get to these, you know, glossy places that look fantastic and people on the outside, you've still got to keep, you know, not getting there is, when we love about this, getting there is kind of the easy part. Staying there, mate, that's much harder. And then, you know, building on that as well, it just, yeah, it's a fairly extraordinary thing.
Yeah, I think so. Like, yeah, like I said, self-belief, but also because it's your life. You know, I certainly don't think I'm any different to anyone else. I certainly don't think that I'm extraordinary. I certainly don't think that I've done anything that I don't save lives. You know, I'm not curing cancer over here. We're making cars go around in circles. Like yes, it's very important and we all love it. But yeah, like it blows my mind how someone can be a nurse or a doctor. Like I could never be that selfless
Oh,
and do the things that
that
they do. You
work,
know,
yes.
it just blows my mind that people that do that. And I think that it's just really important to kind of, like I said before, I don't think I'm extraordinary, but you do have to sit back and go, wow, like in literally a space of 2 years, I went from nobody even knowing who the hell I was and having nothing to do with this sport to working in what's regarded as the pinnacle of it. And for me, I've still got so far to go and so many things that I want to achieve, but you do have to just take a minute and smell the roses and understand that, yeah, you are in rare air and you work really hard, but you, yeah, get to enjoy some moments that are just absolutely phenomenal. And I'm trying to, you know, not be my type A overachieving Virgo self and just blip through the whole thing and just head down, bum up, and you know, not come up for breath. I'm really trying this year to go, wow, okay. Sorry, I'm going to swear, but that was fucking cool.
Yeah.
And I was there, you know, and yeah, it's sort of, you do just have to take those moments. But also one thing that I did want to say in terms of doing things that other people wouldn't do. So yeah, that Tower 3 story, standing there for 4 days, you know, 12 hours each day and badgering everyone that went by, you know, and checking tickets and in the rain and the cold and, you know, and that's considered quite a glamorous volunteer job, to be fair. You know, I'm not a flaggy on a corner all day where, you know, you can't, it's hard to go to the bathroom. But also I had a rule with myself when I started in supercars that when I would walk through the paddock, and I still do it to this day, but I do it without even thinking. I walk on my own. And the reason why I walk around the paddock on my own or in pit lane on my own is because people will approach you and talk to you. And I walk around and of course I smile because when I'm at a racetrack, I just love it. But yeah, I would say that was something that I made a conscious decision to do because then you get to know everyone. You don't just stay in your little box and your little sphere. And when people from mechanics to engineers to team owners to the chefs to the volunteers to the people on the marshalling points to I say hello to everyone. And I'm terrible at remembering names, but I try. But you see these people all the time and they become part of your motorsport family. I think that was something that set me apart in the fact of I didn't make it that, oh, I'm me, I'm Charlie, I'm this journo, I'm this presenter, you can't talk to me, or you can't, you know, there was an us, me and them, or an us and them thing. I made it so that everyone knew who I was. So again, that's to keep you in the forefront of anyone's mind when they go, oh, we need someone to host that thing, or we need someone to do this. I know someone. And I still do it to this day. And yeah, I think being a really good networker but not shoving it down people's throats, that serves you really, really well. if people can say, well, I know Charlie, like, and you know things about them, you have conversations with them and all the rest, and you genuinely care about people. I think that does pay dividends in the end.
Oh, I guarantee it. That's actually extremely valuable advice. Is just and it's just being kind, and being a good human being. And it's funny, those soft skills, as much as we've been talking about all the things you need to do and the hard graft and all this stuff, those soft skills of just taking the time, to acknowledge people and talk to people and just build the friendships is such valuable advice.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I've actually last year on the Gold Coast, I had a journalist, a well-regarded journalist, young guy, but very well-regarded. He came up to me and he was like, we were chatting about stuff, and different people walk past me. I say, "Oh, hi, how are you? Like, I'll come chat to you later." And they're all people within the teams. And he's been working in this sport for years longer than me, way longer than me, probably 5, 6, 7 years now. And he was like, "Wow, you know everyone." He goes, "On every level." And I go, "Well, yeah, I do. I go and talk to everyone because also their stories are amazing." I was like, that guy that just walked past us then, he's been a mechanic on a car and won Bathurst 3 times. Like, he's been the person that screws the nuts and bolts together on 3 Bathurst winning cars. He's done the pit stops on 3 Bathurst winning cars. But there's a guy here that used to work in sprint cars and used to build sprint cars that now works on Cam Walder's car. Like, there's some amazing people and amazing stories in this pit lane. And we only see the people that you see on TV, right? Or the drivers or the ex-drivers or the hosts and all the rest. But there are just such a depth of talent and such a depth of human experience that we never get to talk about. But yeah, I love the fact that I get to immerse myself in these stories and get to know people. I just wish that I could talk about those stories more and expose those stories more, because if I think that, I've done it tough, I don't get my hands dirty. I actively don't do manual labour. I look at manual labour and go, not for me. Sorry, not for me. Don't do. Whereas the pressure that sits on some of these guys' shoulders of a pit stop, I can't imagine that. I can't imagine the pressure that goes into that, knowing that car's going to roll in and I've got to make sure that spike hits that car the perfect spot, otherwise the jacks aren't going up. I'd freak out. So there's so much that blows my mind about this sport, and it's just through, I guess, being a little bit different and putting yourself out there and really wanting to be a part of it is where so much magic has happened for me.
I couldn't agree with you more, Charlie. And honestly, I even just noticed the time and how long we've been talking here, and I'm super conscious of the fact that you have a young person that will probably need to go to bed, who's probably laughing, going, dodging bedtime. Charlie, was there anything else that you were hoping to cover today before we bring this to a close?
I think I've talked an awful lot, and to be honest with you, this isn't where I thought this was going to go, Scott. Like, I think, I've told my story so many times, but it's the first time that someone's really dug into, the younger me, and which I thank you for. There's moments there that I haven't thought about in a long time, and I certainly think that, wow, if I'd told that girl that was doing Street Angels on New Year's Eve and looking around her going, what the hell have I done? If I'd have told her that, she'd be living out this dream and hopefully reaching the next step, hopefully soon. I think it would have absolutely blown her mind. So thank you for that. Thank you for the whole 2 hours of going down memory lane. I think it's made me feel a lot more grateful and humble about where I am today.
Well, it's special, and 18-year-old you would be very proud of you, because it is. It's those overcoming those things, and at that point in time, you've got to think about where you are at that point in time. You don't have the resources, and you don't have the capacity, and you don't have the experience, and you just don't have the knowledge. You're just not prepared, and none of us are. And when you look at the hurdles that you have to cross to get to do these special things, it's extraordinary. Exactly the same way that you enjoy the stories around the paddock. It's the same thing for me. I love talking to people about how, why, what were those pivotal moments, that saving, the girl that you couldn't save outside Fridays, that, she couldn't, and it's those that again, at the time, they're there, they're burned in your memory. They're little markers of where your story has gone. And I really appreciate you sharing all of this with me.
No, you're most welcome. I think, if I can leave on a final note, I think it's just to say that it's never too late. I was 30 before I decided that I was going to pursue this. And even though I say that I felt like I was against the clock, I think it's just important to know you do not have to have this all figured out. I know when you're in year 12, there's so much pressure to know what you want to do and where you want to go, and just live life and get experience and just be open and push yourself outside that comfort zone, because on the other side of fear is absolutely where the magic is.
Hey, I'm nearly 43 years old and starting a podcast. What kind of idiot would do that? Let me assure you. But that's the fun. This is the fun. Is you just, as you said, that high school age person, mate, there's so much more adventure if you're open to it. And it just keeps coming if you continue to be open to it. Charlie, you're an absolute treasure. Thank you. Thank you for sharing all this with me, and thank you for taking the time and making the time, and for being the first person from Supercars to come on the show. I really am grateful.
Well, thank you very much. It's a definite honour, and yes, thank you to everyone. If you stuck with us for 2 hours, it's like my own enduro podcast.
Yeah, it's amazing how that happens. It's funny how we get lost in conversation. It is the beauty of this art form. Well, look, on that note, we'll wind it up. Charlie, thank you again. For people that want to follow you, where can they follow your adventures around the internet?
Instagram is where I am most active. I've tried the TikTokies. I'm trying to get better at the TikTokies. But yes, if you type in Charlie Barlow, I come up. There's not too many of us. So type in Charlie Barlow to Instagram. Feel free to reach out if you want any advice, especially career advice. That is kind of my forte. I always say that if you need someone to be a cheerleader, I'm your girl. Someone to pick you up on those days where you feel like giving up, and to celebrate you when you win. So yes, please reach out. I would love to speak to you.
Charlie, you're a legend. Thank you so much. And for everybody listening, catch you next time.